Welcome to the fall of Caryn Chandler. Caryn Chandler thought she was walking into a courtroom victory, one she couldn't possibly lose. But she didn't know the courtroom itself was an illusion, a mirage, a masterfully orchestrated trap designed to make her reveal the very truth she'd been hiding. For years, Roloff Farms has been a battlefield of quiet tension, but now, according to insider reports, the war has moved from the pumpkin patch to the courthouse. And this time, it's not about family, it's about power, revenge, and control. What's unfolding behind the scenes is a secret war of manipulation and strategy, a high-stakes legal chess match that's far more explosive than anything seen on TV. And if whispers from those close to the Roloff family are true, Amy Roloff may have just made a move so brilliant, so ruthless, that it changed the entire game forever. The story you're about to hear isn't just rumor. It's a puzzle pieced together from exclusive theories and insider confessions. A narrative of a phantom lawsuit, crafted with one purpose only: to expose years of deceit in the most public, permanent, and devastating way imaginable. Before we dive into this incredible story, if you love getting the real, behind-the-scenes scoop on the little people, big world universe, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Motion 24. We're dedicated to bringing you the deep dives and exclusive analysis you won't find anywhere else. Now let's dive into what insiders are calling the takedown of the century. To grasp the brilliance and the sheer nerve behind this plan, we need to rewind to where it all began: the farm. The sale, the tension-filled negotiations, the whispered accusations. It wasn't just a deal gone bad. It was the spark that ignited a family war. For Amy, those close to her say this was never about dollars or acres. It was about something far deeper: the story itself. The power to control the narrative, to rewrite the past, and to expose the truth in a way that no contract or courtroom could ever contain. She had the distinct impression that for a long time, someone had painted her as someone who was hard to work with, irrational, and an impediment to advancement. At the same time, Matt's fiancée and former farm manager Caryn Chandler had presented herself as a calming factor, someone who had a deep understanding of the company and Matt's goals. Amy had no evidence to support her belief that this story was based on deceit and manipulation. Tell me how to counter a whisper campaign. How does one disprove a narrative of the past that has been painstakingly crafted for the past 10 years? It wouldn't work in a family dispute or on a reality program. With the help of her newly formed and exceptionally astute legal team, Amy made the decision to alter the course of the conflict. She would drag the falsehoods out of hiding and into the one arena where they could be formally debunked: a legal tribunal. Insiders in the legal community are referring to the plot as the ghost lawsuit. And it all started with an insight into Caryn's character, specifically her tendency toward arrogance and her fundamental desire to be seen as the victim. Caryn wouldn't merely defend herself. She would assault, according to Amy's lawyers. She would be driven to do more than simply win. She would want to completely demolish Amy's position, establish her innocence, and make Amy pay for her wrongdoing. She would err in her forceful overreach. She was dishonest. The bait needed to be just right. The farm sale was too monumental, complicated, and emotionally fraught to be considered for anything less. It had to be diminutive, rooted in a bygone era that was just believable enough to be believed. A small contract disagreement from Amy's last years as a co-owner of the farm was located in a box of old business records. Disagreement arose during pumpkin season over how to divide the profits from a third-party seller. Although Amy had disregarded the contract's vague language at the time, her attorneys later viewed it as a Trojan horse. It appeared to be a valid concern, but in the end, it was too minor to warrant a drawn-out court fight. The lure was ideal. The strategy was then to be leaked. Here is where the extended con's artistry becomes apparent. Our informants told us that what seemed like an innocent security violation was actually organized by Amy's legal team. An internal note addressing the possible lawsuit was forwarded to the wrong email list by a young paralegal on their team. This list contained a vendor with ties to a close friend of Caryn's. The memo was meticulously written. The document detailed Amy's legal approach, which gave the impression that she was pursuing substantial damages for an old contract disagreement, making her appear aggressive and even desperate. It was staged to appear as a heartfelt, inexperienced lawsuit. As expected, Caryn Chandler and Matt Roloff were the recipients of the leaked document within 48 hours. Just like Amy's team had feared, Caryn didn't shrug it off. Crimson flashed before her eyes. She saw Amy's actions as her continued efforts to derail the farm, coerce Matt into giving her money, and alter the course of events. It might be a trap, but her haughtiness prevented her from seeing it. For all she knew, this was her chance to formally humiliate Amy. She swung into action, calling her powerful legal staff and delivering a scathing order. Crush this. Don't just defend. Countersue and expose Amy for the saboteur she has always been. At this same second, the trap opened. Amy's group was banking on Caryn making the crucial mistake of launching a preemptive countersuit. Caryn was preparing to construct a legitimate legal case that would necessitate evidence and sworn testimony, in contrast to Amy's complaint, which remained a mere rumor based on a leaked memo. Additionally, she would have to fabricate evidence of Amy's sabotage of the property, as there was no actual proof of it. What Caryn and her legal team set out to do was construct an enormous pile of falsehoods. Her countersuit was based on the falsehood that Amy had sabotaged the company for years while she was the farm manager and co-owner. Amy allegedly acted out of envy and a wish to see Matt's business endeavors fail, according to Caryn. However, she was in need of evidence to support this assertion in a court of law. Consequently, she made it. Creating a digital paper trail was the initial step. Masterful imposters were fashioned. Carefully backdated dates and timestamps appeared in emails purportedly sent from Amy's previous farm account. An email purporting to be from Amy directed a pumpkin season supplier to postpone a vital supply shipment in order to sow mayhem on opening weekend. The farm lost a lot of money because Amy rejected a rich corporate event booking without talking to Matt, according to another made-up email chain. Every detail, including the email signatures and style of that era, was painstakingly designed to make these messages appear authentic, making it seem as though there was human confirmation was the next step. A number of employee complaints were prepared by Caryn against Amy. She made use of the names of former seasonal workers, even though they were no longer in the state and so impossible to contact. Amy allegedly fostered an antagonistic work atmosphere, intentionally missiled employees to undermine Matt's authority, and gossiped about Caryn to co-workers in these embellished allegations. In her made-up past, which she was constructing piece by piece, Caryn portrayed the role of the farm's patient manager who fought valiantly to keep the evil co-owner at bay. Never once did Amy's group take any action. A basic preliminary document that indicates a possible lawsuit is on the way. They had submitted an initial notice of intent to sue with the court. This document is intended for Caryn's team to see since it is public record. Importantly, though, Matt and Caryn were never formally served with the documents. A crucial difference in the law is this. Amy did not have an active case requiring Caryn to reply since she was not served. However, Caryn's squad was so overcome with anger and arrogance that they failed to wait. Their big countersuit against Amy was formally launched after they interpreted Amy's notice of intent as a proclamation of war. This was Caryn's formal act of commencing a legal process. Her role in her own countersuit had shifted to that of plaintiff. The assertions were made by her. The burden of proof would fall on her shoulders. At last, Amy's crew could relax and take it easy. Their fictitious contract dispute didn't necessitate proof. It would have been so easy if they had just allowed Caryn to establish her case with false evidence and then, at the right time, sprang the trap for her. With the chessboard prepared and the pieces moving, the trap was set. The deposition and subsequent discovery process constituted the next stage of the legal dispute. Formal, non-judicial testimony given under oath is known as a deposition. A court reporter records every word spoken, and those words have the same authority as testimony provided in front of a judge. Deposition lying constitutes the offense of perjury. Caryn's haughtiness would make her a willing participant, according to Amy's legal team. For her, this would be her opportunity to finally speak her truth and have it recorded. The day had finally arrived for the deposition. The event was held in a clean conference room of a legal firm in downtown Portland. Caryn was seated at the long, polished table, with her two senior attorneys on either side of her. It was as if she were daring, self-assured, and unprepared. On the opposite side, Amy was accompanied by her lead attorney. Allowing her attorney to take the lead, Amy remained calm and collected. Anxieties permeated the air. Caryn was sworn in by the court reporter, and then the questioning started. Caryn was patiently walked through her allegations by Amy's attorney for hours. The attorney exuded an approachable, almost kind air. He was merely requesting that she elaborate on some points raised in her countersuit. He was in no way hostile or accusing. "Miss Chandler, could you walk me through the events of April 15th, 2017? In your filing, you state you personally overheard a phone call where Ms. Roloff attempted to sabotage a shipment." With an air of confident conviction, Caryn leaned into the microphone. "Yes, that's correct. I was in the farm office that morning, catching up on paperwork. Amy came in. She was agitated. I heard her on the phone with our main pumpkin distributor. She specifically used the words, 'Hold the shipment,' and 'We're not ready.' I knew immediately she was trying to create a problem for our opening weekend to make Matt look bad." As he jotted down some notes, the lawyer nodded. "And you are certain about this date? April 15th, 2017. "Definitely," Caryn responded without seeming to hesitate. "It's seared into my memory." It was a clear example of her sabotage. The attorney continued, "Let's talk about the employee complaints you submitted as evidence. Specifically, the one from a Mr. John Doe, a former foreman. He alleges that Ms. Roloff instructed him to misplace vital irrigation equipment. Did you speak with Mr. Doe directly?" "My team handled the direct contact," Caryn said without hesitation. "But he provided a sworn statement, which we have filed. He was afraid to come forward at the time, but he wanted the truth to be known. He was loyal to Matt and the farm." It continued indefinitely. Caryn twisted her lies for 6 hours. She vowed to a large number of concrete assertions based on facts. Details such as timings, dates, talks, and names of people were cited by her. She described Amy's supposed betrayal in great detail. Unbeknownst to her, with each response, she was further shackling herself. The attorney representing Amy wasn't merely taking notes, he was also checking items off a list. Every falsehood that Caryn divulged while she was sworn in was one that he possessed incontestable proof of disproving. He was merely observing while she built her own credibility pyre, and he would soon be the one to ignite it. Amidst Caryn's self-assured perjury, Amy's legal team had been secretly amassing a mountain of evidence and truth for months. They had been plotting behind the scenes, ready to debunk every falsehood Caryn would utter. Silent, meticulous, and devastatingly effective was their probe. Not only did they intend to prevail in the case, but they also intended to reveal a criminal plot. The last missing component was Caryn's sworn testimony, which was contained in the deposition transcript. She had created a legally enforceable record of her falsehoods. The moment had arrived to spill the beans, and the consequences would be worse than anything Caryn had ever feared. It was going to be the last, most painful phase of the game. Its objective had been fulfilled by the phantom litigation. The time had come for the actual judicial reckoning to commence. The illusion of the courtroom was about to fade away, plunging Caryn Chandler into a barren wasteland of her own deceit as the judicial system's vultures swooped down on her. The genuine proof was going to be revealed soon after the trap was set and the testimony was recorded. Caryn Chandler departed the conference room from the deposition room with a sense of triumph. In her mind, she had done an excellent job of laying out her case, cementing the story of her vulnerability and Amy's villainy in the court record. In their opinion, her thorough testimony would be too much to handle, therefore her attorneys were happy. Little did they know, Amy's team was holding a mound of conflicting, undeniable evidence and had painstakingly cross-referenced every word she stated while under oath. What followed was characterized as a strategic destruction according to the accounts we've heard from persons familiar with the court process. Rather from being a response, it completely discredited Caryn and her entire case. The falsehood regarding April 15, 2017, was the first domino to fall. On this day, which Caryn claimed to have seared into her memory, Amy was allegedly overheard damaging a pumpkin shipment while she was at the farm office. The first bombshell delivered by Amy's legal team was unnerving in its precision. Included in the bundle were certified duplicates of Amy Roloff's credit card statements, passport stamps, and airline information. In Oregon, Amy Roloff was absent from the farm office on April 15, 2017. Not even in America was she. Along with two of her best friends, she was on the fourth day of a 10-day holiday in Rome, Italy. There was incontestable proof. The digital camera had captured her in the Colosseum and had time-stamped the images. A eatery close to the Trevi Fountain has credit card receipts. Leonardo da Vinci Fiumicino Airport provided a duplicate of her passport stamp. The recollection that Caryn had sworn to under oath, the one that was the clearest and most certain, was not only false, but also geographically and physically impossible. It was an obvious and purposeful fabrication. After that, Amy's group moved on to the so-called employee complaints. Their detectives had spent months locating the former seasonal workers that Caryn had implicated in her false testimony. They located each of them individually. John Doe had shifted careers and was now a manager on a building site in Arizona. The usage of his name astonished him. His denial of having seen Amy sabotage anything was backed up by a written document in which he asserted his belief that Amy had consistently been an impartial and capable manager. Substantiating his non-communication with any member of Caryn's legal team, he declared under pain of perjury that the sworn statement submitted by their team to the court was entirely fraudulent. All of the other employees that Caryn had mentioned had the same tale. Legally, Amy's attorneys shredded Caryn's fabricated proof with a stack of signed affidavits. Her fictitious characters were now publicly accusing her of lying while on oath. The digital evidence was similarly demolished with meticulousness. A tech specialist conducted a forensic investigation on the phony emails that Caryn had generated. A devastating report came from the expert. Even though the emails were cleverly disguised, he discovered that the digital fingerprint in each file, the metadata, told the true tale. Contrary to what was said, the emails were not created in 2016 or 2017. They were made on a particular computer only 3 months ago, right after Amy's leaked lawsuit memo reached Caryn. According to our inside sources, the expert even tracked down the computer's IP address that made the forgeries, and that number pointed straight to a device owned by the Chandler Roloff home. At this point, the plot takes a sharp and surprising turn. A moral dilemma was developing inside Matt and Caryn's inner circle of lawyers. A young, idealistic associate on the legal team started to have major reservations. She was just 2 years out of law school. He was supposed to prepare the evidence for submission to the court, but his stomach churned as he perused the files. The discrepancies in the email addresses were brought to his attention. Upon closer inspection, he noticed that the employee complaints had eerily identical signatures. He was being requested to submit paperwork that he was beginning to suspect was fake. A client of his was requesting his assistance in committing a crime. He wanted advice, so he spoke to a senior partner at the company about his worries. A chilly warning was what he got instead. He was informed that his role was to file the evidence without questioning it, as client Caryn Chandler was insistent about it. There was tremendous pressure. He was being told to suborn perjury, which is a criminal and disparable act. After being presented with an insurmountable moral dilemma, he decided to speak out rather than lose his career by remaining silent. There was no way he could have participated in a court fraud. He began to write his resignation that evening. His actions were not yet complete. Enclosing all of his grievances, annotations on the questionable papers, and the senior partner's directive to ignore them, he submitted a covert package to the Oregon State Bar Association. His firm and client were the targets of his whistleblowing. A voice from within Caryn's own camp confessing the evidence was fabricated. This internal treachery would eventually provide strong support for Amy's assertions. Thanks to the anonymous tip from the junior lawyer who was now sitting with the state bar and their armory of truth, Amy's team was prepared to put an end to the game. A pretrial hearing in the judge's chambers was their request. Assuming this was just another scheduling meeting, Caryn and her attorneys strode confidently inside. They made a mistake. As he spoke to the judge, Amy's attorney rose to his feet. "Your Honor, we have filed a motion this morning. We wish to formally withdraw our lawsuit against the defendants." Caryn felt a surge of smug comfort. She grinned at Matt as she glanced at him. They believed they had triumphed and that Amy had capitulated. However, Amy's attorney had more work to do. "However, Your Honor," he said in a cold and firm voice, "we have also filed a second motion. A motion for sanctions against the plaintiff of the countersuit, Ms. Caryn Chandler, for filing a frivolous, fraudulent, and perjurious claim, and for a deliberate and malicious attempt to defraud this court." He proceeded to present the proof. Per the judge's request, he set the binder containing Amy's travel documents and flight records next to the transcript of Caryn's deposition, in which she testified that Amy was in Oregon. In direct opposition to Caryn's assertions, he produced the stack of notarized affidavits signed by the former employees. He turned in the forensic expert's findings regarding the phony emails. From a professional distance to shocked amazement, and finally to icy, boiling wrath, the judge's expression changed. His gaze shifted from the proof to Caryn, whose complexion had turned white. A look of utter fear had taken the place of the self-assured grin. She couldn't say a word. Her legal team was frantic, raising objections, but they were stumped. They were taken entirely by surprise. Their attention was completely consumed by the ghost lawsuit battle, and they failed to notice that Amy's team was actually constructing a solid criminal case against their client. After a lengthy, anxious time of silently scrutinizing the evidence, the judge eventually spoke. The room was weighed down by the low volume of his voice. "In my 15 years on the bench," said he, "I have seen contentious litigation. I have seen parties stretch the truth. But I have rarely, if ever, seen such a blatant, comprehensive, and malicious campaign of fabrication designed to weaponize this court for a personal vendetta. This is not a matter of conflicting testimony. This is a mountain of provable lies submitted under the penalty of perjury." He froze, fixing his gaze squarely on Caryn. "Ms. Chandler, the legal system is not your personal playground. Your actions represent an egregious assault on the very foundations of our justice system." The last, most fatal strike followed. "The motion for sanctions is being granted," the judge publicly announced. "But this matter goes far beyond financial penalties. I am taking the extraordinary step of referring this entire case file, including the deposition transcript, the fabricated evidence, and this hearing's record, directly to the district attorney's office for immediate criminal investigation. I am recommending they pursue charges of felony perjury, fabricating physical evidence, and conspiracy to suborn perjury." Although the court fight was concluded, Caryn Chandler's worst nightmare had only just begun. The spectral lawsuit had disappeared after serving its purpose. She had fallen into a trap that she had created for herself, and now the state's criminal justice system was going to punish her severely. When word got out, it rocked the Little People, Big World neighborhood. A number of felony counts were brought against Caryn Chandler, who had presented herself as the future matriarch of Roloff Farms. Separate investigations against her law practice had been initiated by the state bar in response to the anonymous information from the junior lawyer, putting the attorneys representing Matt Roloff in danger. Amy Roloff said nothing the whole time. Despite everyone's expectations, she emerged victorious. Neither money nor land were awarded to her. The truth, something far more important, had been hers to win. Her case was proven not via argumentation, but through skillfully manipulating the court system to expose her opponent's dishonesty, which led to her public conviction. After being checkmated by her opponent, Caryn found herself not only vanquished but also confronted with the scary thought of giving up her existence on the farm in exchange for a life behind bars. So we must reevaluate. Was Amy's legal trap a brilliant piece of strategy that achieved its intended goal? On the other hand, was it an immoral and potentially harmful attempt to use the judicial system as a platform for vengeance? Is it acceptable to bait a trap whose victim is already guilty? A high-stakes gamble with an exceedingly intricate and possibly dangerous plan, it paid off in the most spectacular manner imaginable. Let me know what you think in the comments below. This is one of the most complex stories we've ever covered, and I want to hear your take. Was Amy justified? Or did she go too far? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Motion 24 for more exclusive deep dives that you won't find anywhere else. The indictment of Caryn Chandler was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a public war. The carefully constructed courtroom mirage had evaporated, replaced by the harsh, unflattering reality of a criminal investigation. For Amy Roloff, the ghost lawsuit had served its purpose. She had not sought a financial victory, but a victory of truth, and she had achieved it in the most spectacular fashion imaginable. After she had so deftly set the wheels of justice in motion, she could now retreat and let them turn. However, Caryn, and by implication, Matt Roloff, was only at the start of the fight for her freedom. Those who were there during the aftermath described the Chandler-Roloff household as being in utter disarray and shock. Matt Roloff was suddenly faced with a disaster after dismissing Amy's early legal rumblings as an annoyance, her last desperate gasp, from his ex-wife. Serious felony charges were leveled against his fiancée, the woman he had fought for years. The reputation of his farm, which he had worked tirelessly to build, was being tarnished while his legal staff floundered under its own inquiry by the state bar. His initial reaction, according to reports, was a boiling wrath focused toward Amy rather than Caryn. In his mind, Amy was pulling out a brilliant, vicious, and unforgivable frame-up, and Caryn was only caught in the act. Caryn having falsified the evidence was something he just couldn't or wouldn't accept. Amy, in his opinion, had planted the phony metadata on the computers of her former employees, lied about her own alibi, and manipulated them in some way. Instead of grabbing onto truth, he clung to Caryn's sinking ship of lies like a drowning man. An instant and irreparable split formed in the Roloff family as a result of this choice. It was stated that Zach and Tori, who had already cut ties with the farm because of their disagreements with Matt and Caryn, interpreted the news as a disturbing affirmation of their sentiments. They knew for a long time that Caryn's influence was causing friction in the family and had noticed a change in the dynamic for a while, along with a feeling of exclusion. Although they didn't publicly celebrate, those close to them believe it strengthened their determination to start a new life away from the poisonous politics of the farm. They had already left, and this incident had sealed the door in their faces. Jeremy and Audrey were supposedly very distressed because they have always preferred a life of independence and self-sufficiency. They made an effort to keep their relationship with both parents neutral and distant. The bad news is that it made an unthinkable decision necessary. By endorsing Matt, One was effectively siding with Caryn in her purported wrongdoing, or, failing that, with Amy in her quest for what she perceived as the truth. The issue tore the family apart by making everyone pick a side in a conflict they weren't proud of. A criminal scandal had shattered the Roloff family's once solid reputation, and the offspring of the late billionaire were no longer simply reality TV stars. No surprise that the media swooped down like vultures. The headlines of tabloids were Roloff farm feud explodes, Caryn charged with perjury, together with Amy's revenge, inside the secret legal trap that could send Caryn to prison. I couldn't put the story down. Stunning legal twists, reality TV personalities, and family drama. That's what it had. Roloff Farms was no longer the charming, kid-friendly resort it had been portrayed to be. There had been treachery and deceit, and the location had become the site of a crime. Both the family and the network that carried their show were under tremendous strain. The soon-to-be matriarch was free on bond and facing a criminal prosecution. How could filming of a good family program resume? Two distinct legal strongholds were being constructed during this tempest. There was a camp of silent determination at Amy's. Her legal team had executed a flawless game plan. Their clandestine operation was complete. The district attorney now had full authority over the case. The state now had the responsibility. Following their counsel, Amy chose to remain publicly silent. She refrained from giving interviews and made no remarks of celebration. Just by remaining silent, she made a strong statement. It made it clear that getting even with her was not the goal. Getting to the bottom of things was. What she had so astutely discovered could speak volumes, so she was letting them do just that. Trusting the system to carry out the remaining steps, she had constructed her case using incontestable evidence. The opposite was true at Caryn's camp, where chaos reigned supreme. Using the substantial farm income, Matt retained an expensive new criminal defense team to represent Caryn. No, these were high-profile, combative litigators who thrived on no-win situations. They had nothing to do with family law. Their plan was obvious in no time. The details of Caryn's initial countersuit would not be up for debate. That was an unsuccessful and poisonous case. Rather, they would construct an alternative storyline. Their argument would center on the idea that Amy Roloff was behind a complex, technologically advanced plot that betrayed Caryn Chandler. The boldness of this new defensive approach was mind-boggling. False flight records and passport stamps would be their main points of contention. Claiming to have planted the fake emails and phony information themselves, they would accuse Amy's team of hacking their computer and framing Caryn. They would claim that the ex-employees had signed fake affidavits after being coerced or bribed. The junior lawyer who had blown the whistle would be portrayed as an unhappy and inept worker who was either duped by Amy's sleazy legal team or was a willing participant in her plot. Essentially, their sole move was to implicate Amy in the identical, but more sophisticated and extensive, offenses that Caryn was facing charges for. It was a last-ditch effort to throw the case into a state of complete confusion in the hopes that the jury would find enough evidence to find the defendant not guilty. But these strategies failed to influence the district attorney's office. They were meticulous. They started their own meticulous verification process with the evidence the judge had referred to. After being personally subpoenaed, the airline confirmed Amy's journey to Rome. After contacting the Department of State, the authenticity of the passport stamps was confirmed. In order to examine the email metadata, they dispatched their own forensic team. Their expanded resources allowed them to locate even more digital breadcrumbs pointing back to Caryn, and they validated Amy's experts' conclusions. They found a string of erased search engine searches from a device on the Roloff farm network, which was the most important piece of evidence. Some of the terms that people looked up online were how to backdate an email, create fake legal document, and penalty for perjury in Oregon. Naturally, the young attorney who had left Caryn's initial defense team would be the prosecution's star witness. Anonymity had been lifted from him. He was given immunity in return for his complete cooperation once the district attorney's inquiry got underway. In his extensive chronology, he recounted the senior partner's pressure on him and Caryn's determination to file the fake paperwork with the court. To a jury, his testimony would be devastatingly compelling because they would give them a reason and an inside look at the plot. His credibility was unmatched, and he was the insider, the enemy's camp voice of conscience. The extent of Amy's strategy became clear when the pre-trial proceedings commenced. In order to completely grasp the brilliance of the ghost lawsuit, one must be familiar with the underlying psychology. In addition to accurately predicting Caryn's behavior, Amy and her colleagues had turned her very nature into a weapon. The genuine ruler of the Roloff family, the one who saved the farm from Amy's alleged ineptitude, Caryn's deep-seated desire to be viewed as such was known to them. No matter how insignificant the danger, her pride would not let her to turn a blind eye. They were also aware that her haughtiness would cause her to think she could fabricate facts to suit her purposes. According to those who knew Amy's thoughts at the time, she had been gaslighted for a long time. This high-stakes legal gambit was set against the backdrop of innumerable little episodes, tales that were never broadcast. Rumor had it that back when Caryn was an agricultural manager, she gently portrayed Amy's choices to Matt as emotional or irrational. We heard tales of Caryn passing off Amy's rejected company ideas as her own, only to rebrand and sell them weeks later. The sense of being progressively wiped from the history of the farm she had helped establish was a persistent and unsettling one. Reclaiming her own history and putting an end to the gaslighting for good were the true goals of the ghost litigation, not only the sale of the property or a particular contract. She relocated the event to a location where concrete evidence would be accepted because she was unable to prevail in the war of words. In order to prove a lie she had always suspected but had never been able to prove before, she established a controlled environment, which is similar to a laboratory in legal terms. There would soon be a trial in the criminal case against Caryn. As a last resort, the district attorney offered a plea deal, secure in their mountain of evidence. Probation without jail time would be recommended if you plead guilty to one count of felony perjury, offering Caryn a chance to escape a lengthy prison term. It was a noble gesture. But her pride and Matt's unshakable faith in the frame-up story caused her to reject it once more. Guilt would not be admitted by her. A courtroom would be her setting for the dice roll. 12 strangers would hear her case as she tries to persuade them that she was the victim and that the overwhelming evidence was orchestrated by her ex-husband's evil stepmother. Everything was in place for a trial that would be beyond anything the family had ever seen on reality TV. And modified plot for ratings purposes would not be this. The real-life courtroom drama would have disastrous and long-lasting effects. With pinpoint accuracy, the prosecution would present its case, which would include forensic evidence, the sworn testimony of former employees who had betrayed the company, and the damning story of the lawyer who had refused to be implicated in the crime. Caryn's legal team would present a grand conspiracy theory in her defense, stating that the accused was a jealous woman who committed multiple sophisticated crimes in order to frame her romantic rival. That central and intriguing question kept coming up. Was Amy's plot a selfless act of a lady who felt she had no choice but to use the only means available to her in order to expose a hidden truth? Alternately, was it an entrapment that, albeit successful, sets a disturbing precedent, a dangerous and cynical use of the justice system? The purpose of the law is to protect, not harm, to mediate conflicts, not instigate them. That Amy did nothing more than set the stage for Caryn to voluntarily step onto and provide a monologue of lies is the argument of Amy's defenders. Her critics would say that she knew Caryn was standing in a room full of gasoline and lighted a match anyway. The result was obvious, but the legal ethics are unclear. A horrifying new chapter in the Roloff family's story begins with the saga of the ghost lawsuit, which shockingly concludes an earlier one. A small disagreement over a contract led Caryn Chandler to believe she was entering a legal struggle. Yeah, she was completely incorrect. A referendum on her integrity and honesty was about to unfold before her. Every time she lied under oath on that test, she was effectively proving herself guilty. Once the illusion of the courtroom vanished, the harsh realities of a criminal trial, a broken family legacy, and the unsolved mystery of whether Amy Roloff's cunning and merciless trap was a divine intervention or a dark bargain were all that remained. All eyes were set on the world to witness the reveal. More update. LPBW, Amy Roloff, and Chris Marek's dream home pics. Tori Roloff breaks silence about secretly having twins, and Amy Roloff catches trespasser and loses it. Tori Roloff breaks silence about her mental struggles. I will explain everything. Amy Roloff sold the enormous home she had owned on Roloff Farms and downsized. In contrast, she and Chris Marek lived in a modest home, but they had a dream home in mind. She stated in July of last year that she and her spouse were actively searching for a new residence. Fans of Chris' Little People, Big World are aware of his lofty aspirations and how different their existing home is from his ideal one. TLC viewers were also given a tour of their possible retirement home on Tuesday. In 2021, Matt's former partner Chris got married and moved into her $600,000 house. When Matt eventually renovated the old property and rented it out, his ex-wife raised an eyebrow. He also constructed a brand new, ideal house for himself and his fiancée, Caryn Chandler, since then. Did that encourage Amy's husband to search for a more opulent place to call home? LPBW followers accuse Amy Roloff of fabricating drama around Chris Marek, Matt Roloff, and Caryn Chandler. They may have to continue if they want to purchase their ideal home, if they do it to maintain the TLC show. The cost of purchasing and keeping the home they desire may be somewhat high, even given their combined net worth. The TLC star who enjoys riding a bike was shown on Little People, Big World, admiring a home that he would adore. He could likely park an entire row of motorcycles in the 6-car garage, and the kitchen alone would be enough for his wife. According to him, the plan was to mix a house with an event area. During Christmas, there would undoubtedly be plenty of space for all the grandchildren to visit. Even though Amy Roloff adored the 10,000 square foot home, she expressed skepticism about the necessary funding. "This house is nice to look at and see, but I'm worried that it's a little outside our budget," she added. She may utilize the large kitchen to carry on Amy's little kitchen if Chris Marek gets his way and the mother of 4 from Little People, Big World, falls in love with it. According to him, it's best to take your time refusing. "I think the first step is to see if we like it, and if we do, work out how we pay for it," he contended. He did, in fact, mention Matt and Caryn's ideal home. Amy might think that since it might take a lot of people to occupy the enormous room, they will rattle around. Still, the surreal vistas are quite lovely. Her previous residence in a large home is another consideration. As a result, she will most likely adjust to her new home soon. Do you recall the quantity of items she kept at the former farmhouse on the farm? She was accused by fans of hoarding. One Little People, Big World fan on Reddit stated that they located the house based on Chris Marek's description. If they did it well, the house is not inexpensive. What they said in their comment was, A and C toured a house that was listed for $1.4 million. The realtor had numerous photos of the property, but Zillow just had one. It was really simple to figure out the address. However, I won't reveal it here. What do you think of the ideal house that Chris Marek, star of LPBW, is interested in? Does Amy Roloff have good reason to be wary about such a large property, in your opinion? It's supposed to be their retirement house, after all, but she claimed she didn't want to work until she was 85 in order to pay for it. LPBW, Tori Roloff breaks silence about secretly having twins. The stars' lives may have ended in 2024, but that hasn't stopped fans from caring about them. Ahead of Caryn Chandler's engagement, Matt Roloff broke the news on social media earlier in the summer. The lack of presence of TLC cameras meant that they were unable to grab the scoop. Little People, Big World's latter seasons featured Tori and Zach Roloff. Already a parent to 3, did the couple secretly want additional children? When asked about her twins, Tori finally speaks up. Please continue reading in order to get her response. Over the years, the TLC show was the primary means of support for Zach and Tori Roloff. After Tori's 10-season introduction, the show continued for another 25 seasons. They began dating, eventually got married, and welcomed children into the world. Obtaining a new source of income became imperative for the family once the show concluded. A former stay-at-home parent, Tori Roloff has gone back to work. She accepted a position as a preschool teacher at Firm Foundation Christian School in Battleground, Washington. Prior to their 2021 move to Battleground, Zach and Tori lived in Oregon. As they waved farewell to the Roloff farm, the transfer marked the start of LPBW's demise. In 2017, the Roloff family's first child, Jackson, was born to Zach and Tori. He became 8 years old this year. Lila, who is 5 years old, became a part of the family in 2019. A third child, Josiah, was brought into the world in 2022 by the LPBW stars. The father passed the dwarfism gene on to all 3 of his children, achondroplasia. Both Tori's mental and physical well-being took a hit during their deliveries. Pregnancy rumors surround Tori Roloff at all times, even though she and her husband have stated they are done having children. Beyond just claiming that Tori and Zach were pregnant, one internet rumor went on to say that they secretly welcomed twins. Images of the LPBW stars with their 2 infants were featured in the news stories. The rumors that Tori Roloff had secretly welcomed twins were addressed by the actress on Instagram. Internet phobia has hit me hard today. According to her, the amount of people who have sent this to me was written on one of the images where she and Zach are holding twins. According to her, the reports were false. We did not have secret twins. Tori further by saying, the internet is reaching. Fake AI images and press reports have affected more than just the LPBW stars. After multiple news reports surfaced in various Facebook groups, soap star Steve Burton felt compelled to confront the rumors that he has cancer. These days, AI-generated images are a major issue on social media, and it's not only with famous people. A lot of individuals fall for the hoaxes without checking the facts. Verify the photo's authenticity before sharing it the next time you come across an alarming headline. LPBW, Amy Roloff catches trespasser and loses it. Amy Roloff, a celebrity from Little People, Big World, is all business. Nothing, not even intruders, can get past Matt Roloff's former partner. For many years, Amy's direct approach was directed at Matt Roloff. Compared to what Amy did to an unwanted trespasser in earlier TLC episodes, that was nothing. In her spare time, Amy Roloff enjoys enforcing the law, baking fudge, and spending time with Chris Marek and her grandchildren. Amy is adamant about everything. Like a shark that detects blood in the ocean, she will pursue whomever she believes is at fault. Matt and Amy Roloff argue about arranging and planning a charity event in recent scenes from season 25 of Little People, Big World. Matt even makes the joke that Amy is more capable than he of flipping the switch and taking over as dictator. The most comfortable situation for Amy has always been when she is the only cook in the kitchen. As season 25 of Little People Big World airs, many viewers are revisiting previous scenes and discussing their favorite parts. Online users are sharing an old video of Amy reprimanding a trespasser on her property, and the TLC star is clearly getting aggressive. Amy Roloff demands that a trespasser hand her their camera and all of the photos they took since they were on private property in the Little People, Big World clip. Amy gets into motion right away and drives this individual off her property. She even jumps on top of the man in his own car to get the last word and prevent him from fleeing before the police show up. Amy Roloff was far more nimble in the past than she is now, as evidenced by this old tape that is circulating. She confronted a trespasser who was well over 6 feet tall, and she made no move to retreat. Amy's persistence is adored by little people, big world supporters. Fans admire that even after all these years, she never puts up with bullshit from anyone, be it a stranger, a trespasser, her ex-husband, or her present spouse. A fan of little people, Big World wrote, "You can hold your ground, boy Amy." The following was added by another commenter. "Amy, you are a very courageous woman." A third supporter declared, "She is a barbarian." Funny, even though it has been a few years since this iconic scene, Amy still has the same straightforward style that audiences adore. LPBW Tori Roloff breaks silence about her mental struggles. Regardless of the opinions of little people big world followers on Tori Roloff, Zach Roloff, and their family activities, it must be denied that Tori has consistently been transparent with her viewers regarding the things she handles. Word on the street is that the mother of 3 has finally spoken out about the challenges she's been having with her mental health. Can you tell me what she said? "Everyone knows that when you let their guard down on reality TV, you invite total strangers to judge you. The Roloff family, including Zach, Tori, and everyone else who has spent so much time on TLC's Little People Big World, has experienced this. Even while the network made a tidy sum from the public's exposure, the downside is that being on television makes one vulnerable to trolls and other nasty comments." Zach and Tori continued to put themselves out there with their podcast, even after leaving the family show after season 25, which led to the show's cancellation, which garnered even more criticism from fans and beyond. Instagram is a place where many individuals try to show the world the best side of themselves, but Tori Roloff just went real with her numerous followers, and she didn't hold back. As proof that summer has arrived, Tori Roloff posted photos of her small children basking in the sun and playing in the sand. Tori contrasted the buoyant summer spirit with an honest account of her struggles with mental health. "All right, but let's get down to brass tacks right away," Tori Roloff said to her legion of fans. "Even though summer has just been going for 3 weeks, it has certainly not been easy. On Instagram, we only share positive things, but sometimes it's nice to share real stuff too. Keeping cool and practicing patience has been so challenging for me recently," Tori added. "While I enjoy having all 3 of our children home for the summer, I've come to appreciate the unique needs of each of them more and more as the season turns. Oh, I am very tired. I know I'm only 34, but I've also been struggling with balancing my hormone levels, and I know that has contributed to my mood," Tori added. "Sometimes I don't feel good about how I dealt with our children's problems. I wish I had handled them differently. As a mother, I am making an effort to prioritize my health and get back on track." A large number of encouraging notes were sent by Little People Big World followers to the mother of 3 this time around. This is something that many of Tori Roloff's fans can connect to. Despite her gratitude for her life, it still affects her occasionally. "Tori, you and Zach are rocking the parenting game," according to one commenter. "Forgive and pardon yourself. The most exceptional mother in the industry," another commenter chimed in with. "Be strong and keep your head held high, my darling. The joyous yet exhausting journey of parenthood is no laughing matter." No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.